Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening, everyone. A very warm welcome from London, where this week it's unusually very sunny, and I can't start this webinar with a joke about the great British weather. However, we will kick it off very soon. More than 1,100 people have registered for this webinar, and we'll give them a minute to trickle in. And while we wait for that, why don't you tell us if you could have one autonomous agent handle a negotiation for you outside of your work life? What would that be? Maybe pop in your answers in the chat now. And we will start very soon. Look forward to seeing what everybody is wanting in their outside of work life. Okay, somebody says they want an agent that can manage all their meetings. I'd love that too.
Always important with the internal stakeholders when you're in procurement as well, the internal negotiations.
Right. All right, I think we're going to kick off. So thank you all for joining in. I'm Prerna Dhawan. I'm the Chief Product Officer at Beroe, and I will be the host for this product showcase on autonomous negotiations. Today, we are going to explore how artificial intelligence combined with the strategic brilliance of game theory is fundamentally reshaping the way procurement teams negotiate. And I'm absolutely delighted to introduce our esteemed speakers, Diarmuid Donahue and Dr. Christian Paul, both of whom have shaped the future of sourcing and negotiations in their own right. Gentlemen, would you like to introduce yourselves first? Diarmuid?
Yes, thank you, Prerna. My name is Diarmuid O'Donoghue. I head up the digital garage of BT Sourced. For those that don't know, BT Sourced is the separate procurement arm of British Telecom, BT being one of the biggest telecommunications companies in the UK and across the world. I'm delighted to say, Prerna, we also have Blue Skies in Dublin. So we've got Blue Skies. We're going to speak about procurement technology. I don't think my Thursday could get any better.
Excellent, excellent. Christian?
All right, and there are Blue Skies at Schiphol Airport as well, which is from where I'm dialing in. So my name is Christian Paul. I'm in procurement for the last 15 years, first as a consultant, then later on as the founder of nnamu and the CEO of nnamu. And thankfully, we are part of the Beroe family now.
Excellent. Welcome, Diarmuid. Welcome, Christian. Glad to hear we have blue skies, at least where we are, and I hope it's great weather in other parts of the world as well. So in terms of our agenda for the next 55 minutes, I'll kick things off and briefly touch upon how nnamu fits into the Beroe story. And then we will deep dive into autonomous negotiations. We'll see how game theory and AI come into action on our platform. And we'll also hear firsthand from a customer who has experienced its transformative impact. As we go through this session, please do submit your questions for us. There is a Q&A box you will see on the top right, and we will cover these towards the end. A recording of this webinar will also be made available after the session. So I will kick off with what led Beroe to nnamu. I think for those of you who don't know Beroe, are new to us, we are the leading procurement intelligence provider with our flagship platform, BeroeLive.ai, and our conversational AI agent, Abby. Over the last 19 years, our data and insights have been used by thousands of procurement teams across the world in terms of them making better decisions, making more informed decisions with our data on categories, on suppliers, and supply chains. But of course, the world around us is changing, dare I say, pretty fast. And we are constantly talking to our customers. We are hearing their feedback. And that is what is shaping our product roadmap. What we hear increasingly is that the problem is no longer lack of data. In fact, it's too much data It's in disparate sources. There are too many tools, and what it is ultimately leading to is a cognitive overload. And at Beroe, we are focusing now on bridging that gap between data and action, pretty much across the procurement life cycle. So if I look at our product roadmap focus, BeroLive.ai largely is that platform that has data and insights. Historically, and even today, most of the decision choices and outcomes are managed by our procurement practitioners, the category managers, etc. Right? So what we are trying to do, whether it comes to budgeting, negotiations, or supplier value management, we are looking to support our customers across that entire life cycle. And nnamu, I would say, is our first step in that journey. If I were to unpack this a little bit, for many of you who already work with us or those who don't, you are potentially using our data on commodity markets, on dynamic categories, material price forecasts, and cost structures as you prepare for your negotiations, as you run your sourcing events. You've already been doing that for many years. And now with nnamu, we are getting closer to that action. We are handling autonomous negotiations on behalf of our customers, and there is more to come. We are on this path to expand our proposition from data and insights to more recommendations, decision choices, and ultimately outcomes for our customers. We will share more with you in due course about our roadmap and new products and new modules that we will launch. With that, I will deep dive now into nnamu and autonomous negotiations. Just before that, I'd like to run a quick poll. Please, when you see the poll on your screen, select the option that best describes your situation. So what we'd like to know is, thinking about your current negotiation processes, what's the biggest challenge you face day to day? Is it too time consuming? Are you seeing inconsistent outcomes? Is it the lack of actionable insights or resource constraints? And maybe it's all of the above. All right, so it looks like in most cases, it's a lot of back and forth that's slowing us down as we go to market and negotiate. And I think it's interesting to see that outcome. Hopefully, by the end of this session, you'll see that maybe we can help you with that problem to some extent. Anyway, I now hand over to Christian, who will introduce us to nnamu and show you autonomous negotiations in action. Christian, over to you, please.
Thank you very much, Prerna. I cannot see the slides at the moment, but that doesn't hold me back from telling everyone about nnamu. So there we are. Cool. So what is nnamu? nnamu is an autonomous negotiation agent, and it combines two things with each other. It's game theory and all of the experience that anyone can has in game theory and all of the data. We talk about that later on, that we own 400 billion worth of unique game theory spent data, and it combines it with AI to build an autonomous negotiation solution. And like in 4 headlines, and then later on we're trying to prove all that we're saying with the demo. What does characterize nnamu? Every negotiation format that we offer to the buyers using it on the previous page, maybe they go way beyond simple auctions. They blend like negotiation and auction formats together in a very unique way to give buyers a better outcome. As I've said before, I'm like a procurement practitioner as well for the last 15 years. And what was super important for me and the team when we built the first solution, that we built something that's easy to use and has a modern B2C grade customer experience, and users don't need any previous experience in game theory or anything. So all of this we built into an autonomous negotiation agent. This means what our agent does is it gives buyers a choice. It recommends to them what a good negotiation strategy for their situation at hand for their preferences around their supply chain would be. And then it also allows them to implement, to execute that strategy. And it learns during the project already. And this is what we're going to show later. So the buzzword game theory came up a few times. So what is game theory and what it is all about? Game theory sits somewhere between math and economics. And to cut through all of the all of the technical vocabulary here, you can basically use game theory for two things. You can use it to play the game, or you can use it to change the game. When you use it to play the game, that's when you face a situation that is fixed and you think about how do you best act in it. When you use it to change the game, you define the rules of the interaction with your business partner. And that's something that procurement can do in every tender, in every negotiation. Procurement has that power. And that's why game theory is of so great help to procurement departments in negotiation situations. So you might ask, well, if game theory is so great, and I can tell you I've been using it for 15 years and it's in the market now for 25, why is it not spread further? And there's a very simple reason for this that we see on the next page. Under the hood, game theory and mastering it is relatively complex, but that's only under the hood. So before nnamu, there were basically two options. You could either hire a bunch of super skilled consultants, or like many of the big Fortune 500 companies in the world, you can build up an internal game theory expertise department, but both of those things run into a scalability issue. Yeah, so what you can use it then for is like the upper end of your strategic spend, but you cannot scale it, which is a shame because out there in the market, I looked up this number a few times and it's true, there are 20 trillion worth of B2B negotiations every year that could profit from a little bit of the game theory structure, thinking, magic, fun. And that's what we set out to do with nnamu. Okay, and that's why we built the company. And with that, we can pass on to the next slide. Okay, I don't know whether I have lost connection over here. Hello?
We hear you, Christian. Yeah.
Okay, there we are. You can hear me. Okay, cool. So where do we apply game theory? When I founded a company back in 2022, very frankly, very openly, what we had in mind is to look at the tactical spend. Okay. Why was that the case? We were a little suspect, to be honest, although it was very, very hyped and very, very much talked about the ROIs in tail spend, because tail spend is relatively small and doesn't give that much savings. So we went out thinking, okay, let's build a solution with the main focus on tactical spend because it's big enough, but it's also not the most complicated things to start with. What the first 12 months of nnamu have told us, that the solution we have built on the next slide is powerful enough that it can also be applied in the strategic spend, and that it's easy enough to use that some of our clients also use it in the tail spend. So what does that mean exactly? What you see on the right-hand side of the slide, the first 12 months of nnamu usage, which was back end of 2023 to back end of 2024, clients used it everywhere. And that's like the big headline. So clients used it for projects ranging from 20,000 euros to 27 million, with an average deal size of about 5 million. There was a split of almost 50-50 in direct and in indirect materials. The reason for this being that we help clients to evaluate the differences that they have other than the pure price. So we touched every category that you can think of, and we sit at 15% average savings. The requirements for running a nnamu project today are that we focus on use cases with competition, and once one initial round of RFX has been conducted. And I think one of the key features that I highlighted before is the great thing about nnamu is that buyers can use it right away. There is no lengthy training required. There's no PhD in game theory required. It can be used by game theory experts as well as complete novices to create effect. And with that, I would hand over, I believe, back to Prerna.
Thanks, Christian, for that brilliant overview. And we are going to see this later in the demo, but I will quickly cover that when we look at, and when Christian says you don't need to be a game theory expert, but if you are, then also it makes your life simpler. It is pretty much a three-step process, and we will see the demo, but let me quickly cover this off. In step one, as a buyer, as a sourcing manager, you give your preferences. It's quite flexible. And again, the reality is in a real world environment, when we go for a negotiation, there are preferences, right? I want to give some preference to a certain supplier, or there are some business context. There is some business context that I have to put in. So step one, you give your preferences. Step two, the underlying, the magic really happens, but underlying that is many years of actual negotiation data. So you get recommendations on what sort of negotiation you should be running. But at this stage as well, you as a user will have control. It is your choice. There is a recommendation that the system makes, but you could choose a different option. So that's your step two. And once you make your selection, the negotiation is run on an autonomous manner, and voila, in the end, we see savings. In this specific example, it was 32% savings, and actually the number here is important, upwards of 600,000 euros. And I think that's the point Christian was making earlier. What we have seen in action in real world is that nnamu and this autonomous agent can actually work across your spend. And the bigger benefits, of course, will be in tactical and strategic spends, but you could use, and we are seeing use even for stale spend already. Now with that, I would say, of course, we'll see the demo later, and we've heard about, how this tool has been built, how this agent works. But as they say, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. So we're going to hear from Dermot in a minute about, a real world scenario. Before we do that, I would like to do a quick pulse check from our audience again. And there is another poll that's going to pop up on screen. And this time we are going to want to hear a little bit about the future. So the question is, when it comes to adopting new technology for procurement, especially solutions like autonomous negotiations, where are you on the readiness spectrum? Are you exploring or piloting AI automation in procurement? Are you researching options and building a business case? Are you curious about the potential but have reservations? Or are you still focused on traditional methods? So we have the poll on screen, and we'd love to hear from the audience, please. All right, I think we have a fairly mixed group here, but it's exciting to see that almost 40% of the audience is, taking AI in their stride, and they are exploring this actively. So that's great. So with that, I will now hand over to you, Dermot. I know BD Source has been a trailblazer when it comes to adopting autonomous negotiations. Could you share your experience, and what specific benefits have you seen with nnamu over the last couple of years?
Thank you so much, Prerna. We are in 2025, the world of AI. To start off, I'm going to set the scene. I'm going to take us back to 1846, essentially 170, 180 years ago, if I've done my maths correctly, where the BT's history essentially began with the formation of the electric telegraph, believe it or not. And that essentially started the telecommunications industry in the UK. In 1846, believe it or not, we still hadn't found and discovered all the planets in the universe. Neptune was founded in the same year, believe it or not, by a German Christian from a Berlin observatory. So, you know, if you take our history as a company, I suppose what happens when this giant of a company decides to completely reinvent how we buy goods and services, essentially. You know, we wanted to essentially turn the mindset away from procurement being a cost center to one that drives, I suppose, innovation and gives us as a company competitive advantage, essentially. So, you know, in essence, you know, that's the vision behind BT Sourced, and you know, we're delighted to say that over the last few years, you know, we really have seen that change and how BT does business and the benefits. And as I open up in my introduction, as I said, we're BT owned. We're a standalone company, and so that gives us a bit of flexibility in terms of how we reinvent what you might call, I suppose, the traditional procurement model. And it's been really important for us as a company. We really want to unlock true value for, I suppose, BT as a company. You know, our partners, our colleagues, the people essentially that make up this company, and our customers. So those people, and we'll touch on that aspect, and those stakeholders are really key as we do anything, whether that's IT, etc. And how do we do this? I suppose there's three key tenets or philosophies we try and keep to the core of any decision that we have. We want to simplify, we want to innovate, and we want to digitize, essentially. As I open up as well, where are we based? We're based in Dublin, sunny Dublin today. Delighted to say we've brilliant people here within BT Sourced here in Dublin. We've about 20 plus different nationalities, believe it or not, in the one office. And we have multiple employees in different locations throughout the world. So that's a bit of context. I suppose that's kind of setting the scene of how BT got here and how essentially BT Sourced got here. So if you want to go to the next slide, Prerna, please. And I suppose, again, to set some more context here, and I'm sure there is people on this call who are well aware, but I suppose over the last 10 plus years, there's been a total explosion in procure tech. You know, to be honest, these days it can be a lot to take on, I'm sure, for many people, but we really did want to leverage this opportunity and be a leader. And with that, we set up what we call the Digital Procurement Garage. This essentially enables us to engage startups and help shape their roadmap and really develop like true, as the term goes, partnerships. We were, I would say, as a company, tired with the, I suppose, the take it or leave it approach that was prominent with larger ERPs. We really wanted to, I suppose, scout, pilot, and partner with leading AI tech companies. And I suppose that philosophy we've seen bloom over the last couple of years with different, I suppose, Fortune 500 companies across the world. And we're really delighted to see that kind of essence in companies these days, or procurement companies, which only can be good for, I suppose, procure tech and, you know, procurement more generally. And as a company, the nnamu BT Source partnership really is I suppose, a standout example of the philosophy that we have to partner with AI startups, literally from day one. We basically, I would say from the first week or two, involved all the stakeholders I mentioned. But basically, what we essentially did is we worked with nnamu pre-development. Christian mentioned, I suppose, the company was founded in 2022. We basically became a partner with them pretty much from the early stage. So we, as a company, had our key category managers help develop an input onto their roadmap. Not just, as you can imagine, today you might get offered a SaaS solution or an agent solution. We basically worked with them pre-MVP and post-MVP now, obviously, to help develop their platform, which we have today. So it really has been a success story for us, which I'll touch on some of those successes in a minute. But I suppose we really do, encourage people in this scenario to sort of try and develop a similar scenario if you guys can as well. And what stood out for us as a company so far was the benefit of I suppose, for our category managers, as Christian outlined at the start, basically having your own agent, having your own consultant. So that agent is able to, I suppose, give you your strategy, but also negotiate that strategy with you, and I suppose autonomously run that game theory based negotiation. And I suppose game theory as a philosophy, as Christian was saying, personally, that's something I would have heard in that doctors might have used or might have read it in one of my economics courses, but it's really kind of bringing that game theory, that technical, that data into the real lives and the practical lives to help those category managers decide and develop their negotiations essentially. No surprise, we needed to show true value of the investment that I just mentioned and the time. And I'll touch on this in a second, but we really were delighted to see essentially double-digit percentage savings, not over weeks or months, but essentially in minutes. We have a phrase in BT Source, I suppose, encouraging our category managers to use nnamu as, become a hero in 20 minutes. So that essentially has been some of the successes behind it. And last but not least, we as a company really want to be seen to drive the industry forward. And I suppose we really were encouraged by the roadmap that we've seen so far at that stage with nnamu, but also what we've seen in terms of the roadmap moving forward. So that were some of the kind of key essences of, I suppose, why we really are so happy with the partnership so far and what stood out for us over the last few years. And Prerna, if you want to go to the next slide, please. So I suppose the core issue here is what's been the impact, what's been the benefit. Just been a couple of these key aspects. So I'll start with the stakeholders. So we, throughout the pilot and throughout how we've done it, we basically surveyed our procurement team. So it's very important for us not to, I suppose, even as a digital garage team, to present something to our procurement team to use from day one. We want their input from, as we said, from the start, and be part of that decision as we roll out new technology. So we involve them, but very importantly here, we actually surveyed our suppliers throughout the pilot. Sometimes I think those suppliers can get forgotten in the mix, essentially, but we really saw strong positive feedback from both these stakeholders groups. I mentioned already, huge success from a savings perspective. We did get a couple of challenges internally of what this could do, but I think the numbers really spoke for themselves. You can't argue with double-digit savings, and in one case we had savings of above, 50% in one project. Time is very important for everyone these days. It feels like there's a lot on us as a procurement organization these days, whether it's risk, geopolitical. So giving our procurement team the ability to get that data, get that game theory data, have that autonomously negotiated, and have those benefits, as I said, within minutes and across days has been really, really, really powerful. So overall, we're very happy with the business impact, and I think those numbers and those benefits, really, really do stand the test of time.
Excellent, Diarmuid.
I was just going to finish with, I suppose, Prerna, because sometimes we get asked, and I'm sure there might be a few questions in the chat at the end around, I suppose, what are some of the kind of key learnings for us as a company so far, and we can probably touch on some of these details in a while, but I would say for those out there, I would probably, and it can be very hard to kind of put it down to three, but that was the question asked, but I would probably have people at the center. What does the people element mean? That's the motivation. How motivated are these people? How's your change management? How's your communication? You need to over communicate, and this is essentially what drove some of the success for this example. Talent and skills is really important, and last but not least, and this is really important, I suppose, the ways of working and the process design would be a key element of the people element. Secondly, clear use case identification and benefits. As the saying goes, a problem well defined is a problem well halved. So that was really important for us. So as during that pilot, some of the metrics I talked to just there previously, they were the metrics we tracked throughout the pilot, and then we used those as a basis of our business case to, I suppose, to get to where we are now as a fully fledged platform for BT Source essentially. And then last but not least, don't forget to fail. I think in our case with nnamu that hasn't happened, but that has to be a key philosophy to give people that room to fail and move forward and suppose be nimble. I think having startups with nnamu and having Beroe now involved is really important to us as we kind of move forward in that direction.
Well, thanks, Dermot. And I think we are hearing a lot about human-centered design, even when, we're talking about AI and digital transformation. So I think people at the center is still a key theme here, whether it's autonomous negotiations, whether it's other AI technology that we are seeing around us. There is an interesting question, Dermot, that I thought we can pick up now. We'll, of course, do more Q&A towards the end. But Alexandra has a question about what if suppliers also use AI negotiations? What's your view on that?
In the I suppose it depends what angle you go. Yeah, that's something we discussed here. I suppose that kind of bot to bot or agent to agent scenario. Is it definitely going to happen? Perhaps can we guarantee it? I'm not sure, but it's definitely maybe the direction we're going. Um, so yeah, I think it's definitely something we need to be aware of, and see how these agents battle each other. I'm sure Christian might have a few views as well.
Sure. By the way, I'm in Schiphol today because although we only work for the procurement side, we only work for the procurement side. Of course, for us, it's super important as well to make sure that suppliers understand the interface as well. So the reason I'm in Amsterdam here is because we did a deep dive session with 50 salespeople, and that question also came up. So I said a few moments ago, you can do two things with game theory. You can play the game and act perfectly in a given situation, or you can change the game. And the good thing for procurement is the only side of the table that can change the game. So procurement can define the rules. So can someone, I don't know of one yet, but can someone build an AI agent for sales that participates in the negotiation? Sure. But if the negotiation that is set up is done properly and is done properly like we believe also nnamu does, then there is very limited ways to game the game, so to say. And that big difference between procurement being able to change the game and the suppliers also only playing it, I think that's a very good natural protection.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, like Dermot said, we don't know what's going to happen, but there are different scenarios that we have to play out together as a community. So thanks, Dermot, for that. And I think with this example, at least it's clear that this is not a pipe dream. We are seeing autonomous negotiations, game theory, and AI delivering real-world impact in terms of those double-digit savings, in terms of stakeholder satisfaction and time, which I think all of us have very limited these days. So with that, we'll go back to Christian and look at the platform in action. So while we transition that and Christian sets up his screen, we have another audience question coming up for our audience here. And yeah, we'd love to know what are the main reasons for limited adoption of auction style methods in your daily life? Is it lack of prep time, no guidance, clunky interfaces, suboptimal results?
So, all right. See the bars move over here. Interesting.
All right. So, Christian, I think you're up, and I think we do have quite a lot of teams that feel, there's not enough time, there's not enough guidance on formats, and the tools are clunky. So, hopefully, you'll show us a more B2C grade technology solution that, touches on some of these adoption challenges, if not all. So, we'll hand over to you for a live demo.
Thank you. And you should be able to see my screen now. Give me a signal if that's not the case. So I'm very happy that in the last that in the poll the limited savings of something auction style was not the top answer. That's great. So what I'm doing over here, I'm logging in as Emily. Emily is a buyer. Like always in these webinars, something went wrong in the background. So I was gone a little bit during the webinar before because of the usual issues with Wi-Fi. So um, Emily is a buyer. Emily is styled after a lot of buyers that have run nnamu, and when she logs in, she sees like a B2C grade interface and can navigate to the project sections. And before I talk you through one of those projects, I just wanted to repeat a few things that I also saw up popping in the questions. So nnamu blends traditional negotiation techniques and advanced auctions together to give procurement teams a better result. So we had in one of the early polls like a large group of people who said we focus solely on traditional negotiation techniques. I'll show you an example later on where that's the case in nnamu as well. And nnamu is an autonomous negotiation solution, meaning we start after an IFX. We don't cover the full autonomous sourcing road yet. So on the flip side of this, clients users in addition to their existing tools, and that works seamlessly. So what I would like to talk you through first is a very specific project that we have anonymized and that we have pre-set up here that a client of ours conducted. So they bought something roughly in the packaging plus space, I would say, device lifecycle containers and some data destruction services afterwards. They had run an IFX in Ariba before. They had 4 suppliers in that sourcing exercise. And what this client had done, which is optional in nnamu, they had, of course, collected prices. They were all a little above what they wanted to achieve. See that on the left-hand side on the offer prices. So underlying of this is like an aggregated pricing template. We skip over this in the quick demo over here. So supplier A was the one leading. If you looked at only at offer prices at 3.5 million, and 2 more suppliers at the 4 million mark, and 1 supplier at around 4.5 million. And one of the key features of nnamu, and we name dropped it before, is TVO. So TVO stands for total value of ownership. And what this means is that our clients, of course, have differences other than the pure price between those suppliers. Yeah? So some of these suppliers might offer a better service, their product might be better. Some of them sign up to all the terms and conditions that our clients want. Some of them have better payment terms. All of those elements can be captured in what we call a bonus penalty and hence become negotiables. And what you see over here is a very, very usual picture that the price leader actually has some penalties against them. So for the 3.587 million of supplier A for our client actually meant rather 3.8 million. And in this case here, the incumbent at 4.1 million actually had some bonuses. So one important takeaway from over here is make it easy for our clients to bring the differences in offers that they have, but also everything else that matters to them. In this specific project, the client also had a so-called sourcing mandate. And what the sourcing mandate is telling nnamu, if you don't reach the following comparison price, please don't source the business. So that's it for setting the scene. There's a bunch of other questions that we ask here. Relatively quickly skip over them, and then come to the main outcome in the last poll. So what do usual classic simple e-auction software does? It lets you do like 2 different negotiations. What nnamu does is picks up all of this information, all of the preferences from the buyer about the supply chain, and then turns that into a concrete recommendation. And as Prerna explained before, when I was having trouble with my internet, so what nnamu does differently is it gives of course, the buyer a choice. Yeah, so this is not about replacing the buyer. It goes back to the buyer and says, okay, out of the situation that you have described, and out of what we know about good negotiation approaches from our $400 billion database, and everything we know about game theory, we can tell you what the best thing would be that you could do now, which in this case is something called top two showdown. I'll come back to it in a second. But we also tell you what the second and the third best option would be that you could do. Okay? And these options most often are a series of negotiation steps, and they blend traditional negotiation techniques. Like here, for example, on position 3, it would start with like going out to the suppliers and setting a target line, setting an anchor point. Yeah, so that's a very traditional negotiation approach. And it combines them most often into several rounds of negotiation. So that's the biggest secret of game theory, is that you want to run a negotiation in several rounds, because you want to use the first round to learn more about the market than the IFX can tell you. So what our client did in this actual project is they followed the recommendation. And I'm going to show you the supplier side in a second. But before that, I'm navigating back to the project section and just show you in the completed project here what happened in that specific project, and thereby client get like 19% savings, but explain to you step by step how this negotiation played out, what a top two showdown is, and why a game theory negotiation will get you a better result. So we had 4 suppliers in this project, A, B, C, and D. And those suppliers have been informed that we run 2 stages, and at stage 1, we do something super simple. We just ask them for an improved offer. But there are 2 incentives attached to it. A, we only take the 2 best suppliers to the final stage. Okay, so there will be a shortlisting from 4 to 2. We don't tell them that they are 4, we tell them shortlisting to 2. And the second incentive is it not only mattered for suppliers to come in amongst the top 2, but in nnamu it also matters whether you come in first or whether you come in second. Because the supplier who comes in first in that first requote has an advantage in the final negotiation. So let me briefly demonstrate you what happened there. So we laid out all of these rules, went to the market to suppliers A, B, and C. And the supplier A here moved from 3.8 million to 3.3 and thereby got rank number 1. Supplier B, who was the incumbent, now realizing that the business really is at stake, almost caught up with supplier A, almost caught up and got rank number 2. And the 2 other suppliers also moved quite a bit, but were not successful and were excluded. Okay, so the first round of the negotiation already get us like 13% savings and a clear supplier rank 1 and a clear supplier rank 2. So for the second, sorry, that's the usual mistake. If someone comes in and gives you a little hint. So to briefly sum things up for the second round, so we had supplier A and supplier B participating then in the second round. Supplier A at rank number 1, and the way the negotiation in nnamu happens over here is that we first always go to the supplier ranked 1. So suppliers know if they are the best in the first round, they have an advantage in each of the steps of the second round, because supplier A gets an offer first, and at the 5th step, actually supplier B used their chance, their rank 2 opportunity, and won the business. And this in total led to an overall saving of 19% for our client. And to sum things up in the demo over here, that effect that 2/3 of the savings come in the first round already, that's like the biggest proof that game theory works. We want to have a lot of incentives and a lot of movement in the first round, because what our AI does is it learns from the first round, and we are the only solution in the market doing that, to learn during a negotiation. So we learn during the first round, we use the outcome of the first round to fine-tune the anchor points and the parameters for the second round. And this is a typical example of what clients of ours see. I stopped sharing my screen also in the interest of time. Just want to end on saying, so you saw a few techniques here, which are auctions. You saw a few techniques, which are negotiations. We have 11 unique approaches, and amongst 3 customer examples here, you see that we are successful in all types of material fields, in direct materials, in indirect materials, and all 3 of those cases here use a different design. And to sum things up, giving us enough time for the Q&A section as well, I'd briefly like to summarize what makes nnamu unique. The first one is we combine negotiation and auction formats. The first poll said we use traditional negotiations a lot, which is perfectly fine, which makes perfect sense. Negotiations are horses for courses. And having 2 very simple one-stage auctions is simply not enough. And we take away the complexity by recommending something. The second point is all of what you saw is built on a proprietary unique data set. So everything that my former employer, colleagues over at TWS Partners did in the last 20 years. So there's over 400 billion of spend and thousands of events. And this is where the recommendations come from. And this covers all categories, all industries that you can think of. And the third one that I hope we get across in the brief demo as well, everything you see in here is built by practitioners and has a high ease of use. We didn't touch like nearly half of the things you can do. Just to highlight one here, oftentimes you have a preferential situation, you have a preferential treatment where you would rather try to close a deal with your preferred supplier before going to full market. That's also possible in nnamu, and we're the only ones doing that. And this, I believe, leads us to a quick overview of the market. This is like, of course, one of the questions we hear all the time. The way we like to look at it is whether solutions focus more on the tail spend or on the tactical and the tail, or on the strategic and the tactical and the tail, and whether then on the horizontal axis, what type of technique is used. And technique means more savings, better outcome for our clients, whether these are basic or advanced, and how autonomous it is. And the big sourcing suites where we are completely compatible with, they sit in basic negotiation techniques and not very autonomous. Then there are best of breed solutions which drive down the autonomous level quite a bit, but also rather sit in basic negotiation techniques or more on tail spend. From the first now 18 months of usage, our clients use us, as we said in the beginning, strategic, tactical, and tail. And that has also to do with what we have built in under the hood. And this is what gives Dermot and his colleagues, for example, like 3 to 5% more than other negotiation tools do. We have leading into the Q&A sessions. There are 4 things we are asked all the time. Why another auction tool? Super simple answer. It gives you 3 to 5% more because the reality out there is more complex, and traditional negotiation techniques are also great and need to be built in. What about the suppliers? Do they participate? Super quick answer, yes. The suppliers are in there. The feedback we get from them, just like today in this tryout, is it's absolutely transparent. It's so much easier to use. It's great that you also look at win-wins. Um, we oftentimes get asked, is this like something to use for tailspend? Our answer is yes, of course. You can also use it. We are a little skeptical as to the ROI there. And the last thing I want to spend a minute on, and I also saw it in the question, I already saw it in the questions, is where to start. And since Beroe acquired us, I'm always saying I'm like a little bit a kid in the toy store now, because we're part of the best market intelligence provider that is out there. And one of the first things that Prerna and the teams and us did is put together the Beroe market intelligence together with the nnamu solution that helps our clients to identify what are good candidates, where to start. Okay, so that question that I also saw in the chat, we can cover that, and that's one of the exciting things on our roadmap now as part of Beroe.
Okay.
Okay.
Excellent, and thanks, Christian. You've covered a few questions in the Q&A. There's quite a lot we've got in there. So I'm going to try to cover some of them in the next 7 to 8 minutes that we have left. But whatever we'll not be able to cover, we will follow up after this session. So let me kick that off. So Dermot, the first question for you, and it's from David. David's asking you rather, did you reduce headcount after implementation of nnamu? Was it more about that, or was it about increasing the throughput across your team?
Yeah, good question. It's the latter. Yeah, we didn't reduce the headcount. As I said earlier on, procurement teams have increased cost pressures, increased responsibilities across risk, sustainability. So, this is one avenue to ensure that we cover and exceed, I suppose, all our goals across procurement. And I suppose that's what the business case was based on as well.
Okay. There is a question about, is this, and I think it's from some of our existing Beroe customers, there's a question about, is this available through the Beroe Live AI platform, or will this be separately done under nnamu? So at this point, please reach out to your customer success team, your customer success manager. nnamu currently is a separate solution, but as Christian mentioned, we're already on a path to bring in some of the market intelligence into the nnamu solution. There is a separate question about, does this agent identify suppliers, or is still on my company to identify the suppliers? So standalone today in nnamu, the suppliers have to be provided by the buyer. However, as you know, or if you don't know, on Beroe, we do help our customers identify suppliers. So that is one great example of how we will be bringing the market intelligence, whether it's on suppliers that you can invite to events, whether it's on commodity material prices, whether it's about other benchmarks that we have. So that is definitely part of our roadmap, and hopefully you'll see the combined power of the solution over the next few months in action. There is another question that I will ask Dermot here. So Dermot, the question is, how are you using it? Is it used in a supplier meeting? Do you use it over several weeks? How are people supposed to use this agent? And maybe how you're using it at BT Sourced is a good example to cover that.
Yeah, I suppose maybe not fully understand the question, but I suppose in the simplest forms, I suppose, as I said, we have a lot of cost pressures and a huge supplier base, a huge number of projects to work on. So I suppose the context is, as we've completed a pilot, and now we've looked to scale the solution across multiple categories, multiple regions over the last 6 to 12 months, and that's where we are. So we're looking to, I suppose, scale, drive those benefits further, and I suppose work with nnamu and Beroe on the further developments that we need to see as well.
Okay, one more question, Dermot, that's quite interesting is With nnamu implemented, what future capabilities are expected for the procurement team?
Capabilities from a skills perspective, is that the question maybe?
Yeah, I think the question is, let's say if an organization or a procurement team has implemented nnamu as an autonomous negotiation agent, what would the skills in the team be in terms of what they do in negotiations, or are they doing other things then? Is it more about them, being better skilled at giving the agent instructions? So how do you see that evolving?
Yeah, I suppose as hopefully as Christian outlined, and I suppose encourage everyone to give the demo a go or a pilot. I suppose the user interface of how to use the platform itself is as you said, is pretty B2C. I don't think it changes, I suppose, the core skills of the procurement personnel. I think it does. Essentially, something like this basically removes a lot of the emotion out of negotiations, or helps decide things quicker, essentially. So I'm sure there will be negotiations which aren't going through nnamu, but I think it's just essentially pinpointing those areas. As Christian said, it does cover the majority of your indirect and direct spend. So as long as you plan in advance, involve your stakeholders such as your suppliers, you're going to see some good results.
Great. So I'm going to take the last question for Christian. So Christian, does nnamu have the capability of negotiation with single source supplier scenarios, or is that part of the roadmap? Can you share a little bit with us?
Sure. The quick answer is not yet, but part of the roadmap. And one of those other things, actually, the Beroe nnamu story started like 5 years ago. So before I founded the company, I reached out to Beroe saying I want to build a negotiation solution for competitive negotiations, and have like the data set in this one as well, to give good recommendations, irrespective whether it's traditional negotiations or e-auctions. But afterwards, for bilaterals, preparation, market intelligence is everything. And in a few years, when we're at the right spot, I'd like to pick up the discussion with you. And thankfully, through to a few things, how life plays, this has turned into Beroe acquiring us, and us having this on our roadmap and working on it together.
Excellent. So thank you everybody for joining this session. For a more deep dive session, please book your demo with us. You can see a QR code. You can go to our website and set up a demo. I would like to thank both Diarmuid and Christian. You've been absolutely brilliant in sharing these insights and your experiences. And all it remains for me is to thank this amazing audience. We've had some very interesting questions. We couldn't cover all, but we will follow up. Thank you very much for your time today. Hope this session was useful, enlightening, and I wish you all a wonderful rest of your day and evening. Thanks very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye bye
See
from
you guys.
Amsterdam.
Bye bye. See you.
Bye.